Hi, Morven. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
And now I understand that you two are thousands of miles apart. That's really interesting because I assumed that you'd be sort of working in the same office together. I'm really keen to hear about how you came to be working together in this area.
Yeah, so Maria was a health coach, was a very successful active practice, already focused on women's hormones. I more came at things from the nutrition angle. So I have a nutrition background, added some health coaching, was looking for some testing because I knew that I wanted to go into women's health. I was seeking some advanced training, and Maria was holding a program for practitioners on this training. And I was checking her out online, trying to get some information on her. And I sent her a blind email, and she sent me a note back that just said, call me, with her cell phone, which I thought was incredibly strange but intriguing at the same time. And so I picked up the phone and called this perfect stranger, and we ended up talking for almost an hour, and it was amazing. We shared a very similar passion. Our conversation went far afield from women's health, and we learned a lot about each other and some common kind of guiding principles in life and whatnot. So I did take her course, and in that process, we found a synergy that we just decided to blend our businesses, and that's what we've done since then.
And it looks like it's working really well together. Maria, I've been following you both for quite a while online, stalking, I would probably almost say. But you're both so knowledgeable about midlife health. So we're so excited to get into the conversation today. Can we sort of go and think about how you start your day? Because you're both midlife women and you're both experts in the field. So what tips do you have to start your day well? Nutrition-wise, health, exercise, whatever you think.
I start with coffee.
You start with coffee. That was not what I was going to expect at all.
That was not what you were looking for, Morven, was it? No.
Okay, no. Truth be told, I do have water and electrolytes before I have my coffee because we wake up in a very dehydrated state. But I also get morning sunlight as soon as the sun comes up. I walk in the morning, and 99% of the times I start with a robust amount of protein for breakfast. So those are some really great things. I wish I could say that I did my little kind of spiritual devotional like my husband does. I just can't get in the habit of that, but I think it's awesome for people who can do that as well. So, but I don't.
I don't use an alarm because I have a puppy who is my natural built-in alarm. He did not adjust with the time zone adjustment in the US this last week, so it was a bit rough, but it's beautiful because I do wake up naturally with the sun, and because he wants to go outside and we need to run him around, I'm outside in the summer barefoot, in the winter, like right now, just throw a jacket and sweats on, and I'm outside for a good 15, 20 minutes before I even touch my phone or do anything. And I think that morning sunlight is just amazing. I noticed a huge change in my sleep habits once I committed to that. And then I usually come in, I have a little water with some detox drops and kind of look over the day, etc. And I'm a morning workout person. So I usually head down. We have a home gym that we're very blessed to have. And I usually head down there for a good hour and then, shower and usually start my day. So like Maria, my food in the morning is heavily protein based. We understand women like to have breakfast that looks like breakfast, but unfortunately we've kind of bastardized what that means, and it shouldn't be waffles and syrup. So this morning was eggs and salmon, and that's, kind of how I start my day. And it's a wonderful, kind of foundation for everything.
You've both mentioned protein, and that is actually something I want to talk to you both about today, because you advocate a heavy protein-based diet. Do you want to tell me a little bit about the science behind that and how much protein you believe women in midlife should be eating, and how we can perhaps up our protein in normal everyday life?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we think that the focus for midlife metabolic health, as well as our bone health and our immune system function and our inflammatory responses, all of these things that drive aging, right? Let's face it, like at the end of the day, we're not trying to escape aging. We're trying to age really healthfully. And those things can get off track by diet and lifestyle. And what is the number one way that we have the influence over it, which is making decisions around food? And, muscle is something that's very underappreciated. I think as women, we want to have these svelte, bodies, or toned, as we like to refer to them. But, we were not the generation that was raised with anything other than sort of the Jane Fonda workouts that was all calories in, calories out, and a lot of cardio based things. And unfortunately, that's really been detrimental for women as we come into our 50s, because what's really happening is that we're losing muscle. And that's just a natural function. It's not something we can really short circuit or avoid, but we can mitigate the effects of that. And muscle, the reason why it's so important, it's got obviously the biomechanical implications, right? None of us want to have to hold on to the sink as we lower ourselves to the toilet when we get older, but beyond locomotion, muscle actually regulates everything from our metabolism, our ability to handle glucose from carbohydrates, our inflammatory response. It has a huge role in the immune system. So biochemical things that people don't appreciate about muscle. So given that it's been lost, we need to design a life that maximizes it. And eating protein, particularly first thing in the morning, is the most important thing. I think women overlook, they think, well, I go to the gym, so I'm protecting my muscle. But the reality is muscle needs two things to protect it. Yes, it needs the stressors of exercise and weights and strength training, but it also needs the amino acid substrates in order to synthesize into the muscle that you're attempting to grow and strengthen. So by eating protein, you're providing your body with those amino acids. And that's the most important thing that we think women need to focus on. We get that weight loss and body composition and all those things are important things that influence how we feel. But if we told you that by eating protein and strength training, you will actually be chasing that vanity piece even less, I think women could get more on board with it. So, protein, we look at 1 gram per pound, or I'm trying to think of kilograms for you guys. That would be probably 2 grams per kilogram of animal protein. So, for someone like me, I weigh 150 pounds. So I aim for 145 to 150 grams of protein a day, split up over 3 meals. And I think women, if they started tracking that just to kind of learn what their intake is, they would be wildly shocked at how under eating they are with animal protein.
Yeah, and Maria, Kristen's touched on that. You talk a lot about animal protein rather than just protein generally. Is there a reason behind that?
Yeah, because protein is a very kind of almost, Kristen, I would say almost like an umbrella type of terminology. It really comes down to which amino acids is that protein comprised of. In fact, Kristen and I would go so far as to say, not all protein is protein. Well, what does that mean exactly? Am I trying to sound obtuse on purpose? No, it's just that there are certain like rate limiting amino acids that will not get you the muscle growth that that you need to be incredibly healthy as you age. And unfortunately, like plant protein, unless it's soy, is not going to give that to you. And like so the plant enthusiasts will say, well, I could eat soy. Well, yeah, you could. We could poke several holes through that. One is that it's often very contaminated. It's also not great for the thyroid. And, if you're limiting yourself to that, like you'd have to eat a lot of soy. So it comes down to the amino acids. And, the amino acid that is really mostly missing in any really a reasonably good amount in plant protein is something called leucine. And we need leucine to really help build muscle. And there are other amino acids too, but it really comes down to the quality of the amino acids, quality and amount of the amino acids in animal.
That's the other piece, is that people don't understand that when companies say the plants have certain amounts of protein in them, they're talking about protein that they could measure in a lab. They're not talking necessarily about protein that your body can access and then synthesize. And that's one of the things people don't appreciate, is that, yes, there is protein in plants. Like Maria just said, it lacks the leucine and it lacks the complete profile that we need for muscle synthesis, but it also isn't necessarily accessible to you. There's different components within plants that block your body from accessing that protein. And that's another thing that people don't appreciate.
So as a guideline for our listeners, what would you suggest? I mean, for example, is it one egg and one rasher of bacon in the morning, or how do you build up over the course of the day to get, for example, 150 grams of protein?
Well, so remember, you're not getting 150 yet. You're starting out in the morning with I don't know, anywhere at least 30, but I try to aim for about 45 in the morning. And I know sometimes Kristen gets 50 to 55. So you can do eggs, but those are like I see those as kind of, they can top off something, right? Because you have to eat a lot of eggs to get to that amount of protein. A large egg typically has about 6 grams of protein. Very few people can do more than 3 eggs at one sitting, although my son tends to eat 6 or 7. I'm sure Kristen's sons probably do similarly. But so, we actually do recommend, there's just so many ways to do it. Marvin, it's not difficult at all, but it is intentional. Okay. And so some of the things that, very easy to do, like, well, hello, what about steak and eggs? What about, 4 ounces of steak and maybe 1 egg? Or Kristen, you can give an example. Or salmon. You had salmon this morning, right?
Yeah. And yesterday I showed Maria a photo that she ended up posting to show other women, which was, we hear a lot, women, oh, I can't even imagine eating meat in the morning. Well, Maria and I don't have a problem with that. We love our steak. We love our bacon. We love all those good things. But we understand that women want this sort of like lighter, sweet, usually a little bit appeal to their breakfast. And so yesterday I had 3 chicken apple sausages. That was 15 grams of protein. I had a small 3/4 cup serving of some Greek yogurt. That was another 13 grams of protein. I stirred in a scoop of whey protein for 22 grams. And then I had some little kind of not granola that had some milk protein in it. And all totaled, my meal was 53 grams of protein. It was just a small plate of a couple sausage and a bowl of yogurt. There wasn't even fruit, or anything in there. That's carried me. I had to remind myself to eat lunch at 2 p.m. So when you eat that amount of protein, we focus on the muscle piece, but there's a satiety level that you get with protein that you do not get with carbohydrates or even fats, because we can kind of get sick of fats. It's almost too much. So that's something we try and, get women to understand, is that you will have a balanced blood sugar profile. You will have sustained energy. It's not going to be this sort of feeding yourself with kindling, right? It's suddenly you've got these big fat logs burning on the fire. You can go for a while. And that's another piece that we think is really important.
Perfect. Great tips for the morning. Thank you. You also talk about aging, I think, is it aging successfully rather than aging well? And I want to just explore that a little with you, because I love the fact that you acknowledge that we all age, because I think there's so many in the beauty industry and perhaps not as much now in the wellness industry, but so many people that try to avoid aging. And actually aging is a privilege, and we all know that. The older we get, the more we know that, I think. So what is your definition of aging successfully?
I just want to back up and say the whole kind of aging, and really heavy focus on your looks. And Kristen and I will never really put anyone down for caring about that. I think we're all women. We all care.
But can I just say, this is a podcast, but you both look incredible. So I'm not even going to take anything about that. You both look amazing.
Oh, you're very sweet. Thank you. But what you said about it not being in the wellness industry, it's in the wellness industry as well. So what I mean by it's in the wellness industry, this like outsized focus on how we look. It's just really completely permeated really every aspect of society, because then it is. I could go on and on about that. And like I said, I enjoy looking good. Did my hair today. But it's about, Marvin, we think it's really about what really, really matters to you. What are you going to care about at 80 years old? Are you going to care about, being wrinkle free, and having a perfectly manicured set of nails? And again, these things are not bad. Look, I color my hair. I get it. I'm not a purist by any means. But we see so many women focusing on just what they can see, what's palpable, what is palpable and what they can see, versus like, are they really truly aging healthfully? What are their bones like? What is their mood like? how well is their cognition? How many decades is their cognition going to go the distance for them? And instead we see, well, I want to lose weight, and so many women go about it. I mean, I don't know if you realize right now there's a kind of a drug that's sweeping the world, and it's a weight loss drug. And
No, it's a diabetes drug.
yes, you're right.
Used as a weight loss drug.
Yeah, it's being used as a weight loss, and it's just like I told Kristen, you could basically kind of sell, if I might be a little crude, but it could kind of be poop on a stick. You could sell if you tell women that if they're going to lose weight, and that just seems to be our obsession.
I mean, I think a lot of it is, unfortunately, the social media influence, right? We have these devices that are ubiquitous. They're in our hands or nearby at all times, hitting us with notifications, triggering dopamine, and getting us to look. And what we're seeing is all of this kind of Fitspo influencer type stuff that's sending a message that says, this is what anti-aging looks like, right? This is what success means as you age, to have your 6-pack abs and have these things. And Maria and I call BS on that 100 times over, because what success looks like is, do you have purpose in life? Do you have a meaningful relationship, whether partnered or not? Do you have love in your life, and are you able to give to others? Are you living independently? Are you, seeking joy and traveling and doing the things that light your lamp, so to speak? And so we're frustrated with this sort of replacement of the measuring stick of aging. And the measuring stick of aging is, are you a burden on the healthcare system, or are you not? How is your life stacking up? And if you want to miss these moments in life so that you can be in the gym and, get your 6-pack abs and measure every morsel of your food and be the kind of Debbie Downer at the Thanksgiving table because you won't eat anything that's there or whatever, that's your choice. But we ask women to sort of take a step back and say, really? That's what all of this life led up to? These 50 plus years were meant to be that? We don't think so. And, my husband, Maria, and I have to have this conversation with each other all the time. So we don't want women to think that we're perfect and we've got this figured out. We have our own insecurities and wish that, the little belly fat wasn't there or whatever. But, we always remind each other, like, does your husband love you? Does he want to make love to you? Are you happy and sleeping and all of these things? And one of the things my husband always says to me, because I always get really conscious of my crow's feet, and he goes, babe, every time you smile, it's like you're telling the world, this is a life well lived. This is all of my life written on my face. Look at me. I've had these experiences. Same thing with the belly. He's like, you had 3 huge boys. Own it. Love it. Look at that belly and say, yep, it might be stretched out and a little flabbier than I wanted, but I produced these humans that are doing good in the world. And I'll take that belly if that means I get those humans, So it's a shift in the thinking. And we just want women to kind of step back and realize that they're kind of being played with the social media imaging of what is aging.
And looking at long-term health and well-being as well, not just where you are right here, right now, but looking, as you said, not being a burden on society as you age, or for as long as possible as you age, I think is important. I will call you both out on something though, because I don't think either of you have belly fat. So can we just put that out there?
She should only know.
Bless you, Marvin. But if this were not a podcast, we would show things. But
I've seen it. Now, your business together is called Wise and Well. I love the name. Tell me about the name, Maria.
Well, so we're about wellness, right? So we're about, body, mind, spirit wellness, looking good, feeling good, like the whole thing, aging well. And we really focus heavily on midlife women. And Kristen and I both feel like midlife women, most of us, when we get to that, and that definition is debatable, but for example's sake, we'll say, I don't know, women over 40 or 45. We've kind of lived a bit, and we just don't have time for BS. And we're about like coming into wisdom, and we're coming into things that really matter. So it's about being well, but it's about like receiving wisdom and giving wisdom So we just kind of like, and of course, the alliteration kind of is cute as well. So that's really what it's about. Yeah, for us.
I mean, I think too, one of the things we looked at when we did our logo was that women, when they understand the why of something, they throw themselves behind it. So if we can help educate women and give them that wisdom, making changes and living a great life actually becomes pretty effortless. So we kind of think, get your wisdom, and then being well isn't all that hard, and it's something you enjoy.
And your business itself, is it mainly online classes, or how do you operate together?
It's 100% online, which I would say, we still have women. I would say I probably get this question. I'm going to say maybe it's down to once a month now. Where are you? Can you work with me? I'm in this area. And I'm like, ladies, at least in the US, not sure what the UK is like. We don't have to be limited by our geography in terms of some practitioners, right? Women still need a hands-on gynecologist and things like that. That cannot be put into the realm of the online world. But yeah, we're 100% online, and we work virtually.
But it's not just classes too. We do have a hybrid approach. So we have an app that we engage with. It's just kind of a HIPAA protection thing for keeping their data safe and whatnot. But in that, women have a chat feature with us. And, Maria and I try and have boundaries, but we also really understand that a lot of times if a woman is reaching out, she needs an answer. And so they effectively have 24/7 access to us by that. We do I shouldn't say in person, but online Zoom, one-on-one sessions, or as we would call it, 2-on-1. We have every 2 weeks, we have coaching calls. So it's not as though we're bringing women into an environment in which they're just learning online. They're also getting incredible engagement at a very high level. And, it's very high touch, I would say is the way we approach it.
Mm-hmm. And you do a lot of testing as well with your women. Is that right?
We do. We include the Dutch hormone test, and probably shouldn't even call it a hormone test. It's got so many other additions, vitamins and brain health things and adrenals. Yeah. And then we do a GI map, which is like looking at the microbiome, which is something that kind of does tend to suffer a bit with age. And then if kind of on an as requested basis, we'll do a really, really deep dive into metabolic health. And that's your standard plus. I say standard thinking of the labs that run it, blood work. And that is, I would love to do that for all women. It's incredibly valuable. And I just have to kind of give a hat tip to Kristen, because she is the one that really manages that. And nobody does a better job than she does in terms of like really evaluating what these markers mean for your health. We spend an hour to an hour and 15 minutes going over this, and then giving people a plan and a big write-up of notes. I don't know anyone else who does it like that. So those are the tests we focus on.
Yeah, an incredibly individualized approach then. And so you deal with lifestyle, nutrition. Do you give tips on exercise as well?
We do. Again, I think maybe it's a partially generational thing, because we do see younger women now spending more time in the gym lifting weights, but that wasn't something of the generation before us, our own, or even the one probably right after us. So we're trying to get women to see again that this muscle is a living organ on your body. It's incredibly effective at changing how you age. And so, you don't have to get bulky. And to be perfectly honest, women in their 40s and 50s can't get bulky. We just can't. We don't have the hormonal makeup to do that. But we do need to create strength in the muscles in order to protect our bones and do all those things we talked about earlier. So strength training is a huge foundation for what we advise women on. We'd like to see women at least 3 days a week. And we understand that that's a foreign thing to a lot of women. So we try and break through that intimidation and say, you hire a trainer, you go and get your range of motion. I mean, we're all bringing in different kind of crooks and tightness and different things. So understanding proper form, understanding your body's limitations, understanding compensatory, options, but then really committing to it. And it's funny because women, here in the States, one of the things that got really big is that Peloton bike or Orange Theory fitness classes. And we get it. They're kind of endorphin driving, right? You get almost this like blissful high after you do a hard class like that. But unfortunately, it's also very catabolic and it doesn't preserve your lean muscle mass. So getting women to give up their Pelotons has been kind of mine and Maria's mission. We don't know to make us very popular with some of our ladies, but it really, really, in our opinion, is important. And once women do it, they send us these little secret messages. It almost feels like, oh my gosh, my sleep is better. Oh my gosh, I feel so much better. Oh my gosh, my tennis game improved or whatever. So, we do advise on that. And then stress and sleep are huge, kind of overlooked foundations of health. So it's that nutrition, lifestyle, just all the basic pillars. But working on sleep and stress along with movement are really important.
Well, exercise like the Peloton increases the stress within the body as well, doesn't it? So it's much better to switch to weight-bearing exercise because of that. It's just one thing. I want to talk to you both about HRT because I'd also like to understand what the landscape's like in the US with regard to HRT, whether people are more accepting of it, whether people are still scared of it. I think the landscape in the UK is changing. The education, there's a lot of celebrities now that are starting to talk about HRT and its benefits and perhaps trying to talk about the risks aren't as much as people previously had thought with regard to breast cancer, for example. What's it like in the US, Maria?
It's absolutely having a moment. Menopause is having a moment, and therefore HRT is having a moment. We've got lots and lots and lots of femtech companies like dispensing HRT, and we also have a few celebrities that are starting to talk about it. They're kind of coming up with products, not HRT themselves, but products centered around like hot flashes and hair and things like that. So we're definitely having a moment. There's still a lot of misinformation. There are still doctors, some of them integrative, functional medicine doctors, not all of them, but some of them still saying, oh, you can't do hormones, they're dangerous, which kind of just makes Kristen and I our eyes roll to the back of our head that they would say that too. We kind of almost expect it from our standard kind of, GPs and GYNs. But yeah, it's definitely booming right now for sure.
I think the UK has done a better job than in the States. I mean, Maria and I we read just about everything that's out there in terms of different media sources, trying to kind of see what the landscape is showing. And I will say in the UK, you guys are having a better conversation around HRT itself. In the US, I feel it's become sort of a monetized, low dose, short time, just to address symptoms. Whereas we're seeing these conversations in UK media, different interviews and things that are seen, this is a really important element to aging well. And that we're hoping can come over here because we have some clients over in the UK. I've got a very good friend who was used to the US bioidentical compounded HRT. She moved back to the UK and she couldn't get it and she was devastated. But that was about 5 years ago. And now all of a sudden she has access to things that she didn't before. And that access isn't as widespread in the United States any longer as we're seeing overseas. So, I think Europe and the UK have done a better job in terms of keeping big pharma in check. Sometimes, not allowing certain things, off-label uses, things like that. I think the US has still some work to do. So I think you guys are doing a better job than we are.
That's really interesting because normally the US leads on these kind of issues, but I guess there's been a sort of women's rights maybe haven't been as well received in the US recently. So maybe that's what's going on as well. And you advocate HRT as part of your program?
Well, we teach about it. We teach extensively about it. Again, I'm not saying this to kind of brush off our shoulders or what have you, but I don't really know that anyone else who teaches what we teach. And we think it's really important that women go into the decision informed. That's really our goal, is just go in informed. Even if you decide not to use HRT, which is an option, absolutely. And can you be healthy? Yeah, you can still be healthy. There's lots of things you can do besides HRT. But we think it's extremely important, and therefore we want women to go in informed, not hear just from one doctor because, they're getting one story and whether or not that's correct is we don't know, or from, their friend who's, wow, I've been on a pellet for 3 days and I feel great. The 3 days is a little sarcastic, because, I'm just saying, like, they're having a great time with HRT because they just got on it, or conversely, they had a terrible time with HRT, don't ever do it. Women tend to hear from just like one source usually. So we present like the A to Z, sideways, upside down, backwards, every method, every route of administration, and yeah, then they kind of get a feel for. Then at their one-on-one session, we're actually saying, okay, so let's talk about module 8. That's the last chapter in our learning program. What did you think? How do you feel? What do you see yourself doing? What fits in with your lifestyle? What's your budget? And then, we guide them on how to make that decision.
And you ladies have been in the menopause business for quite a while now. But I read recently that you'd said something about menopause is just big business now, and so many people are putting the menopause tag on things. We're seeing that a lot in the UK now, and I have sort of mixed feelings about it, to be honest, because I'm glad that the conversation is going on, but it was just anybody making a quick buck out of something just irritates me. I think generally, is it the same in the US? Are people just jumping on the bandwagon?
It's appalling, to be perfectly frank. And we agree with you. We love the fact that the word menopause has become mainstream, right? I mean, let's face it, it was something our mothers whispered to each other, if they even spoke of it at all. So that would be the silver lining, right, of this. But unfortunately, like so much happens in capitalistic countries, it's just become about making the buck. And what we're frustrated with is that it's very symptom focused. So all of these femtech companies and new interventions that are being developed, of course, with brands and, everything that can bring the dollar in, they are essentially, in our view, saying to women, here, we can help you get through this stage. They are completely either ignorant to or willfully, keeping out of the discussion that hormones need to be replete in a woman's body in order to ensure certain metabolic homeostasis. And so if we're just going to focus on supplements or low dose things to get you through a hot flash, we're lying to women. I mean, I'm just going to say it. These femtech companies are flat out lying. Yes, it may be lying by omission, but they're flat out lying. And so that's part of what drives Marie and I to do what we do. I mean, we're pretty adamant that nobody else is doing what we're doing from the standpoint of we are constantly educating ourselves. We pay for mentorships with some of the leading clinical doctors in HRT. We sit on the faculty of the Women's Hormone Network. We are so devoted to consuming everything that we can. We've talked to certain companies, even pellet companies, that claimed something and we were like, really? Wow, this would be a great shift in the, landscape. Let's talk. And then, we were able to kind of see that they were selling something they didn't exactly have, and, are able to educate women on that. So yeah, I mean, it is big business. We've got what are the stats, Maria? We've got like 600 billion in, venture capital opportunities, what's been tacked onto women as menopause. And we've got this huge bubble of aging women, right? The amount of women that are coming into menopause globally is ginormous. So unfortunately, rather than truly moving the needle in terms of using hormones to improve women's health, what we've done is once again packaged women as prey. And we have a lot of financial opportunities targeted on our heads right now. And I know that's a really cynical way of looking at it, but that is the position that we're seeing play out more and more and more.
We talk about a lot of this all the time, Debbie and I. There's no single solution to menopause. You have to take a holistic approach. You have to change the different pillars of lifestyle that you talked about: diet, exercise, nutrition, stress, sleep. It really needs to be a holistic approach to everything. Well, it's been an absolute joy, both of you. Thank you so much for coming on the pod today. Lovely, lovely to speak to both of you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
A special announcement from Salora, our show sponsor. Salora is a natural monthly supplement to support your mind and body in perimenopause and beyond. As a thank you for listening to our show, claim 50% off your first month using promo code UNPAUSE50 at salora.com.